Good morning, all saints and all angels and all of you gathered here from far and near. It's such a pleasure. Sheila is here with me, and I'm here in front of this beautiful image of angels and God in Grace Cathedral. I'm not in Grace Cathedral. This wonderful altarpiece by Keith Haring is in the San Francisco AIDS Interfaith Memorial Chapel in Grace Cathedral, remembering all those who died of AIDS. This was Keith Haring's last work of art before he died of AIDS. And if you can see, there are angels all over it. And behind me, you can see arms reaching out. And they are the arms of God, expressing how God's love reaches out to all of life, no matter how far away, how small and insignificant, how suffering and broken they seem to be. It's a very beautiful work of art. And of course, it's super important to remember God's love that's expressed through the angels and through the symbols of our faith. So there are so many ways that we can talk about angels. They have been said to be like, there are as many of them that can dance on the head of a pin that are innumerable in themselves. So there's a lot of ways to talk about them, just as there are so many of them. And the scriptures present today to us a kind of through line, two stories that are deeply connected with each other. And I'm not going to talk about that particular through line. That is the gospel story. It harks back centuries before to the story of Jacob and his miraculous dream. Jacob goes to a lonely place at night, and he takes a stone, he puts it under his head. A pillow is a stone. That, friends, is a sign that he is seeking a dream. It's an ancient way of making yourself uncomfortable enough when you're sleeping so that your sleep is interrupted during the night. Wow, that stone is really uncomfortable, and you remember your dreams. Around holy wells in England, people sleep on stone with stone pillows, or they did in the past, so that their dreams would be remembered. So Jacob is seeking a vision. He's seeking to know God's will and God's dream for him and for humanity. And he has a remarkable dream, and that is of a connecting ladder, an access between heaven and earth, and angels, shining angels, are ascending and descending on that axis. It is the axis of the universe. And there's Jacob, right and in that axis. And there we see that the universe expands out from there. Jacob and Jacob's descendants are going to play a central role in the salvation of the world. And then so many centuries later, Jesus the Messiah is in this conversation in the Gospel of John. As Jesus does throughout the Gospel of John, he's pretty teasing and mysterious all at the same time with Nathanael. He's heard Nathanael say a kind of rude thing about people like Jesus. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? And Jesus kind of teases him and also astounds him. And in reply to Nathanael making a profession of faith, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus says, does this really get you to say that, Nathanael? You're going to see something much greater. You're going to see what my ancestor Jacob saw many centuries ago, and that is angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man. The Son of Man is Jesus, the Messiah, the way he refers to himself. So this would be a great thing to talk about in my sermon today, and it's not what I'm going to talk about. Instead, I'm going to be talking about that really troubling and also reassuring and puzzling passage from the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, something that Episcopalians kind of leave alone most of the time. The book of Revelation is for other denominations and non-denominational folks and snake handlers in the place where I came from in Tennessee or in Alabama. But it's a very profound passage, and it does also have a through line to another passage in the scriptures. And this is to the beginning. So this is from the end of the Bible. It has a through line to the beginning of the Gospel of Luke. Now there is a real, but not fully understood connection between the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of John. New Testament scholars have known for a long time and have pointed out that while Luke is grouped with Matthew and Mark as sharing a great deal and having a similar view of the world, there's something special about the relationship between Luke and John. You could say that Luke and John, and then the Acts of the Apostles, which continues Luke, and then the letters of John, which are later in the New Testament, that these together create a beautiful tapestry that is interconnected and tells a deep and beautiful story together in a particular way. And so here, this story of Michael as the general and the leader of the army of God is connected to the very beginning of the Gospel of Luke, where we hear of the birth of the Messiah, the birth of Jesus. And remember, at that holy night when Jesus is born, shepherds, some distance from Bethlehem, look up, astounded by a dazzling light that overlights the landscape of the dark star-studded sky, and they see a host of angels. Now, we use the word host. It's a little bit of a, what can I say, a bit of a euphemism. It means a lot of people, but it means an army. The herald angel that we hark to, that herald angel is the herald of an army. It is not Michael, but we know the general is there, the leader of the army. We can assume the general is there, but the herald is the one who comes out from the army and announces the army's presence and its purpose in being there. And the herald angel is the herald of an army of God. So here we have at the beginning of the story of Jesus, an army of angels. And at the end of the great story of the Holy Scriptures in the book of Revelation, we have that army again. And this time they are doing battle with Satan, the devil, the accuser, the prosecutor of all the faithful, who stands night and day before the throne of God, accusing the faithful. And this war breaks out in heaven. Now we're talking about the untalkable. We are speaking of the unspeakable. God is beyond all of our metaphors, all of our pictures, all of our images, and the angels of God, while they are closer to us, are still beyond our normal expressions. So when we hear army, we think of armies we know, or armies in history. And when we think of war, well, what images come to our minds? What comes to our hearts when we think of war? And it's not like that with the angels of God. The angels of God, we should think of another way to start to conceive of this. The prophet Isaiah says this: "As the heavens are high above the earth, so are my ways," that is God's ways, "above your ways," that is my ways and our ways, the ways of the earth. "And my thoughts," the thoughts of God, "above your thoughts," the thoughts that I have and the thoughts we have. So God's ways and thoughts are so far removed from mine that my pictures of God, useful as they may be, at some point are not useful. They point to something that is as untrue as it is true. So when we start to talk about armies and war, there's something misleading in it, because God's ways are not human ways. Thank God. And so in what way can we see that is different here? Well, there's a little clue in this Revelation passage. The weapons of the army of God, the weapons of Michael and his army of angels, are not the sword, the spear, or the bow and arrow. Rather, oddly, strangely, it is the blood of the faithful martyrs that defeats Satan and the angels of Satan, the opposing army. That is really interesting. So how does that work? Well, even there, the symbol of the blood of the saints points us beyond that to something which lies deeper and truer, beyond and below and above even that. So the blood of the saints is the sign of utter faithfulness and commitment, courage and compassion. It is the sign that people have made choices. Faithful people have made choices, and they are willing to suffer the consequence of those choices for their commitment to be in the good work, or as the late Representative John Lewis, a man of faith, said, the good trouble of participating in the repair and the healing of the beloved community. So we talk in Christian terms about martyrs, and the word really means witness. And there are two kinds of martyrs, and they're the same. There are what we call red martyrs, and those are the ones whose choices of faithfulness have resulted in their deaths. And their blood, the lifeblood, is symbolized by the color red. But there are also what we call white martyrs, and that's reference to their clothing, which the book of Revelation says is white because it is shining clean. There's no soil on it. It is white, washed by the blood of the Lamb, the resurrected Jesus. And so the white martyrs are those who have made the same commitment, but their commitment and their courage have not resulted in their deaths. They are just as committed, they are just as saintly as anyone else, as the blood martyrs. So it is not the blood precisely that is causing the defeat of the devil and the devil's minions, but rather it is the commitment and the love of the saints of God that is causing this to happen. So may I say that the weapons of the Spirit employed by the angels are perhaps three spiritual qualities. And they are these. They're the ones that St. Paul said were the highest crowning virtues, the three qualities that endure, that cannot be erased, that don't fade away, that don't go away ever. And they are, say them with me, faith, hope, and love. Faith, hope, and love. These three, the greatest of them being love, of course, but all three of them endure. And we can understand that what St. Paul is saying, that the things which endure are the things which outlast the things that don't endure. So power and domination and even cruelty, the things that frighten us, that seem to have the last word in this world in which we live, these are not the weapons that will give the victory. The weapons that give the victory are the things that endure, and they are the weapons of the Spirit. So those are the things, the weapons, rather than bows and arrows, rather than spears, rather than swords. This is what the angels of God use to conquer, to bring about healing and the repair of the beloved community. And now, even though I said I wasn't going to, I return to that wonderful through line, the other one between Jacob and Jesus, and say that this axis that goes between heaven and earth, with angels ascending and descending upon it, is a sign that those gifts of the Spirit are being poured upon you. Just as the dream was given to Jacob, just as Nathanael was brought into the circle of those around Jesus, Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God, is pouring the gifts of faith, hope, and love out on you and on me and on all the faithful of the earth for us to use as the weapons of the Spirit, which are for the healing of the beloved community. Let us be grateful on this day of feast, this day we remember the saint, the Reverend Dr. Catherine Ward, and all the angels with Michael, and our faith life and our gathering together. Let us be grateful for the three things that endure: faith, hope, and love, and how they are poured upon us by the gift of God for the healing of the beloved community.
Amen.